going to talk about a complex of things. It's feminism, contemporary news story, and just my attitude towards groups. Groups, I hate fucking groups. Groups always bug me because, like, I could know 10 people individually, and you get them in a group of 30 people, boom, they all change and become group-minded. It's weird. I've seen a little bit of this in myself, but not too much. If anything, I have these instincts where, I break when I see group behavior, even if I feel like, oh, it's something I want to do, I start to get nervous about it. That peer pressure thing, disgusting. So that's about the atheism. Atheists, they're showing this, the YouTube atheists, I like to call them. They're like, there's no such, that's not kind of atheism. Yeah, it's kind of atheism. I've been atheist my whole life. I've talked to lots of people. The only serious disagreements are either among atheists or people that will think like atheists. In other words, they never get to say, even if they believe in God, they don't get to say, because God says. So you have this group and they just think, well, we got a name for ourselves, we must be one. The unity is breaking apart. The unity was always an illusion. And it's clear that Thunderfoot doesn't understand what's going on in the world in terms of, it's like my grandma once said way long ago. She wasn't particularly racist, but she's like, oh, African Americans, it's turned the tide, now they have a big advantage. I'm just not seeing that, Grandma. I see things in principle that we could discuss, bitch about, tune, argue about. But nobody's ever been drugged down my street behind a truck. For example, Thunderfoot is incredibly dishonest. He tries to fool people that don't look into claims, they don't look into source matter. He misquotes. He takes Rebecca Watson, and I thought the elevator gate thing was a little overblown. But then again, it's not like she called the cops on the guy. It's not like I've seen any proposed sexual harassment policies that say the Jew shall not hit on women in elevators. She was just using it as an example. But he takes a speech of hers that makes it sound like she is advocating walking around in pairs because she got hit on in an elevator. In reality, that very speech, she explains what she's talking about. She said she got a threat from someone who was claiming to go to a conference she was going to, and that he would assault her if he saw her. So they went around in pairs. Now, you could think she's making that up, but it doesn't change how dishonest it is for Thunderfoot to take that part out. And frankly, the whole junk jewelry thing, too, they want to prohibit, they're just crazy. And you see people and think, junk jewelry, what is it at anyway? Blah, 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 I'm confused. Yeah, I looked that up. Well, it wasn't junk jewelry. She meant people were parodying her own jewelry. Does that make that reasonable? No. Does it make it feminist issue? No. But the dishonesty of taking that stuff out of context and piecing it together to make it look a certain way. You see, this is, boys and girls, this is why it isn't actually okay or productive to have a whole community of people bonding over the hobby of finding somebody that is the most out there Christian, young earth creationist they can find, and ridiculing them. Finding demons and fighting demons. Beware when you fight monsters. It's not really as wonderful as you think. Later on, you'll watch your grandkids will watch a movie about how you thought you were fighting dragons and they were windmills. It's only after you become atheist that the fights really start to even matter in a modern context. That it isn't just exhibition. These are going to be the real differences that you're enabled to discover. People always want to know, I got my atheism, finally I got there. Finally reached it. I finally reached the perfect philosophy, atheism. Oh, free at last from religion. Everything will be great, but it isn't. Life still is life. It's just beginning. You no doubt have many other delusions to work through. People often walk up the staircase backwards, looking at the people behind them, I guess for self-esteem reasons or something. Right? They never seem to know that it's a maze of plateaus and alleyways and staircases down and dungeons and terraces and mountaintops. But the most ridiculous part of this, I mean, it's very clear people, it's much like racism. People are deluded about what's going on in terms of gender issues or what women put up with online or the kinds of things they have to deal with that they have to judge if they're credible or not. It's very easy if you're not the subject of them to judge and proxy for them. But really the amazing thing, is just, once again, I've seen one of these communities so-called form up, self-ascribed, and then fall apart based on differences they've had the whole time. You think this difference wasn't there, but why are people breaking up the community over this stupid thing? You think this difference wasn't there? Just didn't rise to priority. You were busy all patting each other on the back for goofing on a bunch of morons. Congratulations. You must be awesome. They're very much stupider than us. And then you're like, what? We have different what? We don't all agree? We didn't vote for the same person? What? And Thunderfoot seems to think that atheism is scientism. None of you seem to understand the distinction between dogmatism and free thought. The issue of free thought being anti-doctrinaire. The A+ people are looking for a doctrine. Politically correct, they're looking for a doctrine. You all just lost one doctrine, now you figure you need another doctrine. No, that was part of your old doctrine, was that you needed a doctrine. No. Don't need a manifesto to survive. Quite the opposite. And it's all there in front of you, all of this stuff. The history, thousands of years of history. And some of you, just poor souls, just now, are getting free of religious theism. At least 100 years, if not more. Too late. Well, not too late. It's never too late. Good for you. But it gets a bit wearisome to be an atheist, and possibly ascribed in such groups as this. To respect the movement, that there's people that can finally say that. Maybe in 50 years, we can have politicians that actually admit to being atheists. And yet it's all just phenomenological. None of it's good in principle. None of it makes sense. There's enough delusion to fuel the chocolate factory here. Yeah? In the evolution of mankind, it's like, it plays a role. But so did Christianity. But I can certainly see how it fails. It's like it ends when you actually start being a neophyte on real subjects, real policy. It starts when you are so free of the bonds of theism that you realize that's not really what determines the character. And this is where the term secular comes from, because it's like, well, we really just don't want people to make their political arguments religiously. We don't really care what kind of holidays you like to support or culturally what tack you take in the way you teach your family its history or whatever, its future. It's not really the determinant of character. Now, it's certainly true in reasoning. People need to get theism out of their reasoning. Reasoning with theism in it is useless. It's useless. It's nothing but glorifying your own intuitions. But in terms of what kind of holidays you want to have, what's your favorite sport and stuff, won't end up being real important to your character, right? To your empathy, how you actually view things, what you really think we should do together, how you should treat people that are in your community, whatever the size of that community, be it a nation or a city or a family. Now, the contemporary story is the Steubenville rape thing. And even if there wasn't, no rape occurred, it was just like the videotape of that kid joking about rape, that's rape culture. You're going to have to face, oh, but they're calling all men that way. Well, no, they're calling all Arabs terrorists, too. Doesn't mean there aren't any terrorists. Right? There is a rape culture that thinks it's funny. You know, maybe it's some nervous energy, so they go to this area, but they have this out, they have this little area they can run to. Oh, this is funny. She shouldn't have got drunk, blah, blah, blah. My daughter would never go out and get raped. That's rape culture. When you have people like Thunderfoot characterizing, you know, the statements of Rebecca Watson as even more extreme than they may be. You know, slight annoyance, but like they're just paranoid about something that's unstated because he has cut out the reason. Yeah, he's perpetuating that. He's defending that for whatever reason. Something he thinks, he's afraid that every creep is going to be called blamed for assault. That's a danger to him or something. Anyway, you guys have too many idealistic views and not enough practical approach to things, in my view.